The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Nice to meet you, Naboth.
King, what can I do for you? I am honored to be blessed by your presence.
So I'll keep the small talk to a minimum. Naboth, you have a very nice vineyard. Everybody in Israel marvels over it. But I particularly have a very high interest in it. You see, it is very close to where I live. And I would like for you to give me a vineyard so that I can turn this into a garden. And I'm not coming empty-handed. I'm willing to give you an even better vineyard. Or, if it's pleasing to you, I will give you what it's worth. A fair exchange with the king. How does that sound?
Huh? You want my vineyard? King Ahab, you know the Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors. If it was anything else, my king, surely I would do it to please the king. But this I cannot do, king. This I cannot do. I'm sorry.
Why is your spirit so troubled? And why haven't you eaten?
Oh, Jezebel, my wife. I'm just not in the mood today. I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite. I asked him for his vineyard. I even offered to pay him. And he denied me. He told me that he would not. He told me that I can't have his vineyard.
Don't you now reign over Israel? Get up, eat food, let your heart rejoice. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth. Messengers! I need you to send this letter to the governors of Jezreel. So in this letter, it's saying to proclaim a day of fasting and to seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. But seat two scoundrels opposite him and have them bring charges that he has cursed both God and the king. And then they must take him and stone him to death. Naboth is going to regret ever denying King Ahab and Queen Jezebel.
In this episode of our podcast, we are delving into a fascinating story in 1 Kings 21. This is a chapter of greed, corruption, and the consequences of unchecked power. We will explore the story of Ahab and Jezebel and the injustice they perpetuate against Naboth, who is a righteous man who refuses to give up his own inheritance. Please join us as we unravel a complex web of deceit and learn powerful lessons about integrity and justice in our own lives. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, so welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast, here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay
and Earl Roberts. We definitely appreciate everyone for joining us again in another week. Hopefully you guys had a great week out there. And hopefully everyone's just, doing good. It's crazy how time is flying. We are already in May. I just was reflecting this week and I was like, man, sometimes you feel like you're not getting anywhere. And then you look down, you're like, wow, we're almost halfway through the year. Like where does the time go? But God's been good this year, man. Yours really has ups and downs, but God is still faithful through it all. How you been, man?
I've been good, man. Like you say, ups and downs. I lost one of my close relatives, my cousin. He was my age. He was like a year older than me. Stood at my
Mm-hmm.
wedding and stuff like that. And it's really been sad for me and my family. Obviously, you had brothers and sisters and stuff. So, prayers for my family and also those who, lost a loved one and who dealing with that. But other than that, I'm blessed. I got home. I got a chance to go home twice so far this year. I got to introduce my wife to my family because usually when I go, I have to go for business and not like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have free time. I don't take off work. I'm just working, and it's because I have to deal with a specific task. And people keep seeing me and they're like, "Yo, why why you don't bring your wife?" And I feel like that was starting to look a little suspicious. So I say, you know what? Next time she
You're
come in and
coming.
and so like it was no question about it because I was going on. I'm like, yo, we gotta make sure you come with me, and we just got to see people, got to experience some culture, and that's about it, man. I've been on the road a lot lately. I've been just away from home, but I'm glad to be back, and I don't got nothing planned for the future, so I should be here for a
Next few
while.
months.
Yeah,
Next
for
few
the next.
months.
Yeah, don't even say the future. That was too funny.
Man, it's like, I got nothing planned for the future. I'm done. I was like,
Yeah, I'll
what?
never leave. I'll never leave again. But
Oh my.
yeah,
But
for the next few months.
that's what's up. Glad you at least getting the time to rest, and rest is important. Rest is definitely important. And not just sleep either, like the mere fact that we just get a chance to unplug. And that's super important too. I mean, I've been thinking about even going back on like a social media fast or something, like deleting my profiles for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to just delete some of that extra stimulation out of your life, man.
I agree. I agree.
So, as a recap, last week we had our boy Steve featured on the podcast. That was a fun one,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out three people in the in-person video era.
Real talk.
Don't worry, we'll get some more cameras soon for the better angles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. So like last week, we see that this King Ahab, in his selfishness and arrogance, took a victory of God and tried to flip it for his own personal gain and made a deal with the Syrians when he shouldn't have. And right after that, God sent a prophet and told him that, hey, you will, you're gonna die, essentially. And so he was condemned. But Ahab, just went on with his life essentially. And this brings us to 1 Kings chapter 21. And it's an interesting scene because now we know everything that's been happening. Elijah the prophet, the showdown on the Mount Carmel with the prophets of Baal, Elijah running away from Jezebel, then Ahab getting the surprise victory from God. And now we just show up in verse 21 where it says, it came to pass after these things that Naboth, a Jezreelite, had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, next to a place of King Ahab of Samaria. So Ahab spoke to Naboth, saying, give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is next to my house, and for I will give you a vineyard better than that. Or if it seems good to you, I will give you its worth in money.
It's always interesting to me how people just go on with their life after they. I guess you don't have a choice but to go on with your life, but it's always interesting how people maneuver after they get like fatal news. Like the prophet last chapter told him, because you did not destroy Ben Hadad, it's gonna be his life for your life. So you're gonna be killed. So Ahab knows that his time on earth is, I mean, I don't know if he believes it or not, but he has been told that his time on earth is going to come to an end. And Right now, I just going on business as usual. I see a vineyard that I want. I gonna inquire about it, you know. But like sometimes I wonder, like when people have open court cases, or you know, maybe a terminal illness, or maybe they
Mm-hmm.
pending sentencing. Like, how do you? Like, I feel like that would eat me alive. Honestly, like I feel like I don't think I can't imagine what it'd be like for me, because I think that's gonna consume my mind 24/7. But it seems like Ahab, he probably just shrug it off.
It's not even that, you know. I think Nahab is doing Ahab. Ahab is doing
Ahab.
what a lot of humans typically do. You get bad news or you're in a depressed state. What do you try to do? Fill that void with something else. You go to your vice. And so he's saying, you know what? I just got this devastating news. What am I gonna do? I want a new vineyard. This vineyard is here. Let me try to fill this void with something. Let me try to make myself feel good. And I think that's, it's a common thing every human does, just in different ways. So when you look at someone else's vice, you'll be like, why are you doing that? But then to some people, it might be eating. Some people, it might be going to watch a movie. Some people, it might be going drinking alcohol, drowning their sorrows. You know what I'm saying? Smoking weed, smoking a cigarette. Like, everyone has their thing that they try to do to get themselves out of feeling depressed.
I agree.
And then the next interesting thing I want to point out, because it's going to have some parallel later down the line, the word Naboth actually means prophecies or words. So it's actually a play on the word prophet.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting how we're going to see some, like, once you have that in your mind too, you start seeing this story, it has a different meaning or a deeper meaning that you actually can start to read into when you read this in the Bible. And then the next thing that's interesting too, now you see this guy, just take a step back. In Hebrew culture, right? When, at least especially back in this day, like, we know the story of when the Israelites finally made it into the land of Canaan, how the land was divided up amongst the 12 tribes. And even in those tribes, it got divided up amongst the members of those tribes. So when you have your land wasn't really, they felt like it was like the divine right to keep their land.
Yeah, it wasn't for sale.
It really wasn't for sale. Like, even back in those days, you never really like sold your land. It was leased. And even if you leased your land, that was very rare.
And then it was only for a certain amount of time. Like, I think
for a certain amount of time.
7 years, you got to get our back, right?
Exactly. The Jubilee, you get all your land back. You know what I'm saying? So now, even for the king to come and say, all right, let me buy your land from you. To Naboth, like, you literally just asking me, like, what is my inheritance worth? What is all my family history worth? He's like, you can't put a price on this. That's just paint it from Naboth's perspective. Like, because some people might say, why didn't he just accept it? Because human nature would be like, the king said he would give you a vineyard better than that. But there's a deeper meaning now. Like, why do you want my inheritance?
Yeah, and if you understand Torah, then you understand why Naboth spoke in such a way. Because to me, it's like, if the king asks me, if he said that he'll give me the worth of it or a better vineyard, obviously I'm gonna get more for what my assets are worth if I have that option to. But in Numbers 36, it's the last chapter in Numbers, verse 7 it says, excuse me, so shall not the inheritance of the children of Israel remove from tribe to tribe. It's basically saying your inheritance can't be bouncing around from different tribes. If this the inheritance of the tribe of Dan, all this staying within Dan, right? But then it goes on to say, for every one of the children of Israel shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. And so this is a law. This is in the book of Numbers. So basically, the king of Israel, Ahab, is essentially coming to Naboth with this Godfather offer. But the only problem is, it is against God's law for Naboth to actually sell. And so Naboth is in a predicament. Do I oblige to the king or do I oblige to God? And so that's a little bit of context as to what he was thinking.
I guess we jumped the gun a little bit, but in
Yeah.
verse 3, Naboth said to Ahab, "The Lord forbid that I should give the inheritance of my fathers to you." So Ahab went to his house sullen and displeased because the word of which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers." And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and would not eat any food. But Jezebel, his wife, came in and said to him, "Why is your spirit so sullen that you eat no food?"
What a wife.
What a
coming to the defense of my husband. You know, some people say right or wrong, I can ride with mine, like no matter what.
I just picturing this big old man who every time he don't get his way, he is just turned into a little kid.
That's what it seems like. And I don't know how to prove this, but I do believe that instances like this kind of shows, like this probably the one-off time we see an instance like this with King Ahab. But I do believe when I see stuff like this in the Bible, that this is showing you the type of person that he was in general. It's just like when we met Nabal, right? His name meant fool. We only know one instance of him being foolish, right? But we can kind of deduce that in general, he was probably a greedy and unwise person. And same thing with Ahab. We see how at least we get to see how he reacts, so we can kind of speculate the type of person he was. But even from this, I tend to believe that he is like a covetous person. I don't know if that's the best word, but he got big eyes. Like he sees something he wanted, and he's gonna get that. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Ahab, just based on this one story. And I believe that certain times in the Bible, you get to see the peak of who these people are. Like Uzzah, we only see one bad thing that he did, right? But if you can kind of analyze how he got in this situation, you realize, oh, this guy would have had to pass. He would have to ignore a lot of steps to get in the predicament where he reached out to touch the Ark of the Covenant and died. But a lot of times in the Bible, you only see this one instance and a decision is made based off that. And you're like, oh, man, that's kind of, that's not fair. But
but this is the second time the Bible has said Ahab went away sullen and displeased.
Okay, when was the first time? Refresh my memory.
Literally, that's how we ended last chapter after he got the news.
Oh, okay.
He went away sullen and displeased.
That's understandable too, though.
This big, I'm like, bro, stop sulking. You're a big grown man.
Someone tell you about to die, right?
Bro, someone tell you can't have a vineyard, bro. And
okay,
who's the king?
I get that.
I'm like, yeah, I'll give him a pass if someone's telling you about to die, right? That's a hard pill to swallow. But you're the king and someone tell you can't have a vineyard and you like this and you know you could have better? Like, this one vineyard is going to make your day that much?
Yeah, even if it's like the one thing that you wanted in your whole life, right? You got to consider, I have a lot of things that no one else has. You know what I'm saying? All right, I could part ways with one thing. This is just me saying it from the outside in, because I don't know what thing do I care about to the degree that that Ahab cares about this vineyard.
That's not yours.
that's not mine. See, that's the trippy part. That's where the 10th commandment comes in. You understand? Do not covet thy neighbor's XYZ vineyard in this situation. Because how this impact in your day so much that your wife have to come and, take matters in their own hands or come and console you because of this. I don't know.
And then we see in verse 6 now, right? He comes, he said to her, because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, give me your vineyard for money, or else if it pleases you, I'll give you another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give you my vineyard. Then Jezebel, his wife, said to him, you now exercise authority over Israel. Arise, eat food, and let your heart be cheerful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite.
That's a dangerous woman,
But as we say, we see who wears the pants in this relationship.
Oh, big fox, bro.
One wicked and weak, and the next one wicked and strong.
Boy, real dog.
And it ain't the one you think.
Real dog. It's not the likely one, but this a very... she seemed like she have a big personality. And they probably balance each other off if only they could use their Their powers for good and
All
for the
this zeal
kingdom.
for good.
Yeah. But think about it though. Naboth, you asked him for something, and he didn't say no. He say, God say I can't do this. And so this ain't nothing personal at all at this point. This between you and God, because you asking me to do something that's breaking the law of God. He accepted that. But he was sad, and it cost him his appetite. All right, so back to the point you were saying. In the event that Ahab was using this vineyard as something to drown his sorrows with, you know what I'm saying? The fact that you don't have this vineyard, they sent Ahab into a deep depression, right? But you accepted it. You could have killed Naboth right then and there if you're serious.
Exactly.
So whatever your wife's going to do, it's not going to be legal. It's not going to be good.
It ain't of God.
It's not of God, but like to me, it just showed the type of authority that he gave Jezebel, or that she just had over him, because she about to do something bad. You could have done this to begin with. You could have done that. You know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason you didn't do that, it's the same reason you should not have allowed her to go on with this plan. But you might have wanted to stop her, but you were so weak and sullen that you didn't even say anything. I know.
Yeah, he just enough command of his house.
I think so.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
And now we see how because verse 8 to me, and this is my opinion, I feel like it kind of shows that he was still in cahoots with it, right? Because verse 8, she wrote letters in Ahab's name, sealed them with his seal, and then sent letters to the elders of the nobles who are dwelling in the city with Naboth. And she wrote letters saying, proclaim a fast and seat Naboth at high honor among the people.
Wow.
And seek 2 men, scoundrels, before him to bear witness against him, saying, you have blasphemed God and the king. Then take them out, stone him, that he may die.
Not to jump the gun, right? But you remember in the story of Esther, when Haman, he was trying. So the king, I can't remember his name right now, but the king, he remembered Mordecai, the Jew, and how Mordecai had saved his life, and he went to Haman, his right arm man, and say, "Hey, Haman, how should I honor someone that I respect, and I want to show them?" But Haman thought he was talking about him. So Haman was like, yeah, man, put him on a donkey and let someone walk him through and do all this type of thing. You know what I mean? And they end up putting Mordecai on it, right? The story progressed, and Haman, he really hated Mordecai, and he made a plot to kill Mordecai. He wanted Mordecai to hang in the gallows or whatever. But the way the story ends is that the king ended up finding out all Haman's misdeeds, and he ended up putting Haman on that same gallows, right? That was he wanted for Mordecai. This kind of remind me of that in a way, in that you're going to punish someone, right? But you got them thinking that they elevated in some type of way. So like, to me, this kind of like psychologically, this like kind of sick to me. Y'all fasting, right? Now y'all gonna have a feast, but you putting Naboth at a high place. So in his heart, he might feel like, all right, I might be getting blessed for something, right? I would have still been a little scared because I know I turned on the king. But all right, you in a high place. But then you put 2 scoundrels on the side of me, and now you like, oh, this ain't, this don't seem like it can end well, but it's just for him to be punished,
I also think it's just messed. Well, anyway, that's gonna be jumping ahead a little bit.
One more question, one more thing. You see, like how people typify Jesus, and they show all type of types in the Old Testament of Jesus. Do you see a type right here?
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up later, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. You touched me. You could go for it.
No, it was just a question. That's all. That's as far as I got with the question.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, absolutely, because, the whole thing with Naboth, what's happening right now? The word is on trial, right? The prophecy is on trial. We have someone who's going to kill a man who was innocent, and they're saying, "Oh, you have blasphemed against God and the king." What did they say again? What did they say?
The Pharisees said the same thing.
You have blasphemed against God and Caesar.
Mercy.
The exact same thing. So it's like, again, when you start digging into the story, you see how, and even in the Bible in general, you see how so many things like in the story of Jesus was just repeated. Like God was telling you time after time, like, this is going to happen. You want it in this version, you want it in this version, you want it in this version, but there's so many different things with the life of Jesus that just keeps on getting like repeated and repeated and repeated, just in different ways.
That's crazy.
And it's just interesting how the people of that day still missed it.
Whew. Boy, I was listening to a pastor, and they say,
go for it.
The pastor was saying it's much easier to see a prophecy after it's already fulfilled. You know what I mean? Because even now, we have prophecies, bro. Revelation, even Daniel. A lot of prophecies in them books that have not been fulfilled and are going to be fulfilled probably soon. When it happens, will we see it? You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy because I feel like, it's just me assuming, I feel like the level of complexity is probably the same. So when we see things in Revelation, obviously, I don't know if any of us on this call right now know every prophecy and can break down everything in Revelation to the T, but those gray areas might have been the same that the Israelites was dealing with during the time of Jesus. And so, boy, I feel like when we get to heaven and all things happen, God can show us, hey, so you see, we always live in 2023. This thing right here, what happened? That was based on Revelation, and I could be like, no, I didn't even see it. I didn't even see the slide right now.
That'd be something. That'd be very interesting. But to your point, man, there's definitely prophecies that are happening right now. It's interesting to just, I mean, anyone with eyes can see that the world ain't progressing to a more saved place. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm. But in just a small tangent, Steve was by me last week. I was talking to Steve about Great Controversy. I was telling him I attempted to read the book a few times, but one time I started to read the book and I really was answering questions that I had hid in my heart about the validity of Christianity and Jesus and stuff like that. And it was through prophecy and understanding prophecy that I became more grounded in Christ, because if Christ could be, if God is a superior being, right, and he's the creator, I believe God should know the beginning from the end, and God should be able to show us what's going to happen if he cares about his children. If the end is destruction, you should be able to prepare us. We see that all through the Old Testament. Prophets all about, even angels coming to Abraham saying, oh yeah, this destruction about to happen. We see it, but we reading it after the fact. So to me, that don't hold no weight to me, And I was telling him out in Great Controversy, chapter 1. Ellen was breaking down something that happened after the Bible. So, the narratives of the Bible probably end at Acts, and then we have letters, and then we have Revelation. That's prophecy, But after Revelation was written, around that era, there was a war between the Jews and the Romans. But Jesus prophesied of this. Jesus prophesied of this several times. And it really blew my mind, because when Jesus said, not one stone will be left on the temple, I automatically assumed that's his body he's talking about. But he was talking about literally the temple that they offered sacrifice in the Jewish revolt in 70 AD. The Romans, they burned that temple down. And nobody saw that coming, because the Romans helped to build the temple the temple was built when they left Babylon and them stuff. But Romans later came and glamorized the temple. And so the disciples, when they were in the temple, they were marveling, oh, this is so beautiful. And Jesus was like, I tell you, not one stone can be left upon the other, Me and Steve was reflecting on Matthew 24, when Jesus was saying, when you see the enemy encamped, that's your sign. When you see the abomination that causes desolation, that's your sign. And it's crazy because when you read the historic version of it, it's a guy named Gallus Celsus, I think his name is. He was a Roman leader. He encamped around Jerusalem. He encamped around Jerusalem, and then he withdrew. He withdrew from Jerusalem, and I was reading the history on it, and nobody have a reason for him withdrawing. Some people say, oh, he was bribed to do so. He had a family emergency. Boy, there is no evidence as to why he withdrew. And him withdrawing caused him to lose a lot of men. When they withdrew, the savages in Jerusalem, they attacked them.
And attack them.
Yeah, and they lose a lot of men. And people, like, even historians, like, bro, like, you had the battle, bro. If you had not withdrew. But the fact of the matter is, Jesus prophesied it. He said, when you see the enemy camp about, don't come off your roof to come inside the park. No, just go. And that was the church or the followers of Christ. That was their sign. That was prophecy. You see what I'm saying? And so I can't remember the point that even lead me to thinking about prophecy. But bro, it's because of prophecy that I feel so confidently that Jesus is the Son of God. And I dismiss any other religion that does not have Jesus as God. You understand what I'm saying? And it's because of that I feel like this is proof. I feel like God prophesied so that we could have faith in him, so that we could understand, but also so that we could be prepared for what is to come. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get back to
Absolutely. It's a valid point, man. Like that's definitely a valid point. I don't know where he is. Oh, 11. So the men of the city, the elders and the nobles who were inhabitants of the city, did as Jezreel had sent to them, as it was written in the letters which she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast. They seated Naboth with a high honor among the people. And two men, scoundrels, came in and sat before him. The scoundrels witnessed against him, against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth has blasphemed God and king. They took him outside the city and stoned him with stones so that he died. Then they sent Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned and he is dead.
Mercy.
That's just sad. It's definitely sad. And now it shows the people of this city in Jezreel how they are. Like I said, Ahab was weak and wicked. These people, they weak and submissive and subservient. Like, why y'all just following along with what Jezebel says just because? Because it means y'all like elders and nobles. Y'all have sense.
Yeah, they have plenty sense. They have plenty sense. They may not have morals though, but they get sense.
But you're just going along with this, setting up an innocent man for what? Like at the end of the day, what y'all could gain just because the king gonna get a vineyard that ain't his? And when you read deep, I think in 2 Kings, they even hint that it was not just Naboth who died. They had to kill all of his sons, because if Naboth dies, what happens? The sons get the inheritance.
Yeah, that's true.
So what they did was like threefold here. They killed Naboth. They killed his sons, and since they said he died by a crime of the state against, like, blasphemy against the king and God, the king could actually claim his property. And so what Jezebel did was extremely wicked.
That's why, and you know me, sometimes I get locked on certain points when it's like, why you care about this specific point? But I think it's important for us, bro, that actually read the Bible, not to follow narratives that people generally just spew out and accept. So they call Jezebel a harlot, right? But they don't. But in the actual narrative of Jezebel in Kings and Chronicles, ain't nothing sexual or promiscuous happening but her. It's only in Revelation when they call her a harlot. And I believe that this is a prophetic. It's like you being a prophetic harlot. Like it's a prophetic word for harlot in the sense that a woman represents a church in prophecy. A harlot is an apostate church. You understand what I'm saying? So this lady, Jezebel, they call her the queen of harlots or whatever it is, you leading people to apostasy. So now, in the literal sense, Jezebel, the actual queen, she not only led Israel into apostasy because she married the king and infiltrated all of her religions and all of her idols and stuff like that, but also the king who was keeping the law, even though he didn't like it, she forcing the nobles and scoundrels and all type of people to be involved with breaking the law of God, or else. You see what keeping the law is gonna get you? You're gonna end up stoned. And I feel like that's why it's so fitting for Revelation when they talk about the beast to talk about Jezebel. Right now, every time we hear about Jezebel, it's idol worship, it's killing prophets, and it's killing people for doing the will of God or for following the law of God. That's Jezebel. Real talk. But we ain't even Ahab, when Ahab was fighting the king of Syria, up until he spared Ben-Hadad, who was the king of Syria, we could say, all right, Ahab have some good works. You understand? It wasn't only bad. It wasn't only bad with him. Jezebel, it was only bad, bro. It was only bad, you know? And so when people call someone a Jezebel, I get it. In Revelation, they do refer to her as a harlot, but in the grand scheme, in context, are they talking about sexuality? Are they talking about specifically Jezebel even? You know what I'm saying? And so like, I feel like it kind of diminishes the level of evil that Jezebel was operating with to limit her to promiscuity, you know, or to limit her to being an appearance. Like when they say someone dressed like a Jezebel, that means they wearing something very revealing. But this woman wasn't, but this was a political person right here, bro. You see what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. She was wielding power, bro.
Real dog. Like,
she was wielding power and using it for evil.
Yeah, straight up. And killing people.
Forcing other people to go along with her evil plot.
Right.
Because, I mean, like, again, let's just paint the story one more time. Ahab already walked away sad and defeated. He gave up on the mission. He accepted Naboth's response and was like, all right, I just ain't gonna get the vineyard. Jezebel took it upon herself to say, okay, nope, you getting this vineyard today, whether you want to or not.
For real. I can forge your documents. I can
but the
make
funny
them
thing about she might not even have to forge it. He might just say, all right, here's my seal. Do what you got to do.
That's true. That's true. She write it up and she had access to his seal and he did not stop it.
Exactly. Because you still the king at the end of the day, bro.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted Jezebel dead, you could have Jezebel put away.
And in a joking note though, I tell you he was trying to get rid of Jezebel when the king of Syria was asking for all his wives. You know, he ain't complain, he just was ready to let it go.
He's like, yeah, so it was cost me. Anyway.
No.
So in verse 15, and it came to pass when Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, then Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, when he refused to give you money, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. So it was when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab got up and went down to take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So now you all excited when you hear Naboth died. And what are the odds that Naboth just died the minute you wanted his vineyard? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's an inside job, man. It's a government conspiracy.
Government conspiracy, oh boy. And then, so now in verse 17, then the word of the Lord came to Elisha the Tishbite, saying, arise, go down to meet King Ahab of Israel, who lives in Samaria. There he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. You shall speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, you have murdered and also thus says the Lord, have you murdered and also taken possession? You shall speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, in the place where the dogs licked the blood of Naboth, shall the dogs lick the blood even of yours.
Yeah.
And so again, I'll go for it.
No, I saying we ain't heard from our boy in a while.
Exactly, I was going to say. So now we see in last week's episode, even going back 2 weeks before that, Elijah ran away from Jezebel.
Yep.
And so we see even at the end of the war, Elijah was nowhere in Israel when it was time. When it's time to deliver the message to Ahab, so God had to use another prophet, another unnamed prophet. But now we see the Lord saying, all right, no, I need you to go back down there for real. I have a job for you to do, and you need to deliver this message.
Mm-hmm.
I need to tell Ahab exactly what's going to happen, because now that I'm very displeased at what Ahab did, and realize God, and this is the next thing people got to realize, right? And this is important, even to me. You can't say someone caused you to sin, because we see God ain't say, go tell Jezebel. God went to Ahab because you in charge.
Yep.
You know what you did wrong, and you still went along with doing wrong. You can't say, oh, my wife caused me to do this. Oh, this person caused me to do this. I only did this because this person tell me to do this. God's saying, no, you know better. You know better. You in charge, and you leading my people. So I don't care what they tell you to do. You know what you should have done. And now we see, and this is where Ahab's judgment, condemnation is coming upon him.
Because Ahab is an Israelite. Jezebel, I can't remember what land she from, but she ain't from Israel. She ain't from any of the tribes. She's a foreigner. You understand? So she judged according to a different light than you are judged. You speak to prophets, she was trying to kill them. You know what I mean? You have evidence of God's divinity, you know, of his might. You have evidence of that, you know, and so you can't be justified, you know, the things you do. And you know this was wrong, and you didn't do it. You didn't go and do it, you understand? And because you know it was wrong. And so because you allowed it, you know, you just as bad. And because you know better, that make you worse. You know, to whom much is given, much is required.
Bro, this reminds me of Romans 1, right? Romans 1 goes into a lot, like Romans. I love the book of Romans. If you read the chapter, the book starts off pretty strong, and even in verse 18, it starts talking about like the wrath against God, against those who are wicked. But the last line in chapter 1, although they knew God's righteous decree that those who do these things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. And that line always hits me, right? Because I mean, this, I think I just read from I just pulled up as the NIV, but you read in different versions, right? It shows that God saying, you're just as guilty of just approving of someone's wickedness if you don't stop it, or you don't try to stop it, as them who's doing it. You just as guilty. So Ahab, you know what Jezebel was about to do wasn't going to be godly. You didn't try to stop it. And so you just as guilty, even though you ain't the one who stoned him. You ain't the one who even sent a letter to stone him. You ain't the one who come up with the plan. But you knew all these things was probably going to happen in some way, shape, or form. Just as guilty.
Yeah, most definitely. And you could see he's the one who getting the punishment. So, but it's something to know how these kings, we see multiple times when God comes to these kings multiple times. God, like Saul, God tells Saul, from I see, 1 Samuel chapter like 12 or 13, when he didn't wait on Samuel to do the sacrifice. So Samuel say, God say, he turned his back on you. But still, God giving him chances to be obedient. No, he won't keep being disobedient. Continues to be disobedient until I think chapter 15 when they went to war with the Amalekites. The same thing that Ahab did. They were supposed to kill everything, but they ended up sparing the king. You know, unfortunately for Ahab, It wasn't no prophet around like Samuel who ready to kill them, that king right then and there. Because Samuel understand the assignment. And even next chapter, we're gonna see why it was a bad idea for Ahab not for Ahab to spare the king.
Yep.
But the point I'm making is, even in our life, bro, even if you feel like God is punishing you, because some people feel that way. It might be true, might not be. But just know that because you have life and you still have opportunity. Basically, these kings, the prophet coming and giving them a direct message from God. But that's also a test to see if you could say, well, I getting punished anyway. I might as well go all out. Or will you say, no, I'm going to repent regardless if the circumstance change. I think it takes a lot out of us for us to be noble, even though we're gonna be still receiving our punishment after all. Yeah. So yeah, Elijah come with that word.
Verse 20. Have you found me, O my enemy? So this is what Ahab said to Elijah. And think about it now. Ahab is on his way to go clean his ill-gotten vineyard. He sees Elijah. And again, as in previous chapters, he refers to Elijah as his enemy, which is interesting because this is the man of God. So now if you directly saying the man of God as your enemy, what are you really and truly saying? God is not on your side. And he answered, I have found you because you have sold yourself to do evil in the sight of the Lord. Behold, I will bring calamity on you. I will take away your posterity. I will cut off from Ahab every male in Israel, both bond and free. I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Naboth, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Ahijah, because of the provocation in which you have provoked me to anger and made Israel sin. And concerning Jezebel, the Lord also spoke, saying, the dog shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. The dog shall, pardon me?
I said mercy.
The dog shall eat whoever belongs to Ahab and dies in the city, and the birds of the air shall eat whoever dies in the field.
Same thing they professed to Jeroboam.
Yep. And Baasha.
Yeah, someone else, yeah.
But there was no one like Ahab who sold himself to do wickedness in the sight of the Lord, because Jezebel, his wife, stirred him up.
Mercy.
And he behaved very abominably in following idols, according to all that the Amorites had done, whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. So it was, when Ahab heard these words, he tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his body and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went about mourning. Then the word of Elijah the Tishbite, saying, see how Ahab has humbled himself. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, see how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring calamity in his days. In the days of his son, I will bring calamity on his house.
It's simple, bro. Bro, reading the Bible, I'll be honest with you, even from the sake of a skeptic, it's a learning curve, because you got to get through a lot of things and you just don't understand why is this happening. Like even when the Israelites came into the land of Canaan and they have to destroy everyone in that land. It's some tough questions you ask yourself when you ask God, like, how is this love? How is this just? Why is this happening? But I'll tell you, when you read the Bible, you get a very good understanding of the way God interacts with people. And you might say, hey, all right, this person, he was patient with this person, he wasn't. And then the more you read, the more you analyze, you could see the commonalities in what they did. He just say, and this like the second or third time a prophet or God is speaking, and they saying, yo, you the worst ever. Just now, they just say, hey, bro, all these people was wicked, but he didn't know it was wicked like you, bro. You got your wife to stir you up to do wickedness. But even still, because Ahab because Ahab humbled himself before the Lord, God forgave him. God ended up giving him another chance, bro. Simple as that. Simple as that. And we see that happening. It could have happened with Saul, except Saul didn't humble himself. It probably happened with Solomon. We don't know, because one of the last chapters we get from Solomon is just learning of his fall from grace, and he was already old. You know, people believe Ecclesiastes was written when he was old, and he was a positive dude talking about God, so that gives evidence of it. It's likely, you know. I don't know, but Ahab is reminding me of David if he wasn't a man after God's own heart. So we see in some of these kings, and it kind of helped me to understand some of the temptations you go through when you have a lot, and when you have a lot of power. We have kings who decide that my plan is the only plan worth sticking to, and even though my partner might have dropped the whole plate for me at any given time, I have the right to deviate from it if it serves me. You know, that's what Saul did multiple times. He was supposed to wait on Samuel to do the sacrifice before they went to war. Samuel taking too long. I can do this myself. Right? He's supposed to kill all the Amalekites. Oh no, we can save the best cattle. We can save the king as a trophy. Same thing with Ahab. Ahab saved the king as a trophy. You understand what I'm saying? I see David. He walking on the roof. He sees something he like, a woman, and he say,
"Take this.
This is mine. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I am taking you no matter what." And he did. And that's the same thing with the vineyard. We see a man who say, "Yo, I want this vineyard. I ain't taking no for answer." And you know, you could die. You could die from you. I don't mind you dying if it means I can get my way. You know, same thing with David. It wasn't that David wanted Bathsheba, so he killed what's his name? Azariah. Uriah.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he wanted her, so he's decided to kill her. It's that he already wanted her and had her, and I want to spare my name so I can kill you, Uriah. You understand what I'm saying? But we see kings taking these things into their own hands. Now, the reason why David is like the model citizen, despite having evil similarities with these kings that I named, is because David was repenting. He was, quote unquote, a man after God's own heart. Even in David's old age, he was falling off, breaking the law. God said, "Don't count the people." I can count them. I can count them still, though. You know what I mean? But the problem is but the difference is, do you repent? You see what I'm saying? We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That is a fact. Some of us gonna continue sinning until we pass away. Sometimes it's intentional. Hopefully it'll be unintentional. But the question is, how do you respond to that? You know, do you sin and you consider this? It's like me with the Sabbath. I try my best not to break the Sabbath. But if I already break in the Sabbath, sometimes I feel like, I done breaking the Sabbath. I could take more liberties. You know what I mean? Like
it's like when you're on a diet and you eat a cake. You like, well, today just is a cheat day.
It have to be cheat day now because I already break that. So like last week I was trying my best to keep the Sabbath. I had to make a repair on my sister's house. I had to try to fix her bed in some type of way, but it was Friday night when I discovered something I wanted to fix. And I was flying out on Sunday morning. The only time, this ain't like America, the hardware stores close early on Saturday. You know what I mean? I had something to do on Saturday night, so I couldn't have gone and buy the supplies or whatever. So the only option I had was to either buy it on Saturday or try to buy it on Sunday morning. But they open it up at like 9 and I got to be there about for 10. I chose not to go. I chose to say, you know what? Even if I only have an hour to work on this, that's when I can do it. I'm not breaking the Sabbath. I took my wife to the beach. I tried to take her to this very exclusive beach that was shady, and no one's going to be there, and we could just be private. Come to find out, and I hadn't been to this beach since before the pandemic. Last time I took her here before. This time, we get to the beach. The woman charges $5 a piece to get on the beach. Mind you, I only have an hour to be on this beach because when we leave this beach, I got to go meet my godmother. She's making us dinner. We was already behind schedule for the day. I can't go to another beach, Earl. You see what I'm saying? I then drive all the way across town just to come to this beach. Mercy. And I just bite the bullet and say, yeah, man. I give her the money. I was talking to my mommy later and she tell me I supposed to say no, not even because of the Sabbath, but because, bro, y'all can't own the beach, bro. Like, you know what I mean? This is my island, but she probably take me for a tourist, whatever. And so as that day progressed, I had it looming in my mind, bro, you already broke the Sabbath because you buy on this day. So anything else that pops up is like, bro, it's what it is, bro. The Sabbath is already solved for you. You know what I mean? But truthfully, if my life was to be summed up in that mindset, I do not feel confident. I mean, God is a just God. You know what I mean? He might look beyond my faults and see my needs or whatever they say in the song. But I do not believe that mindset is conducive for me to make it to heaven, because it puts right and wrong in my hands. I am no better than Adam and Eve in that situation. Knowledge of good and evil, knowledge of right and wrong. I want to decide that. So when I break God's commandment, and it might not be the best analogy because some people might not even see what I did as breaking the Sabbath. Tomato, but when you are in a situation where you have already compromised God's law, how do you react from that? Is the overall question that I'm asking. You know, is it something where you double down? You like, hey, I already dirty, I already wrong, and can't get no wronger than wrong because you wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or do you repent? Or do you repent and limit the transgressions? You know, that's a question. It's a question for the audience, and it's something we see all the kings went through. We see a lot of people in the Bible, prophets, good people, bad people, by whatever definition y'all want to use. But the fact of the matter is, God is consistently forgiving even to the most evil people. We do not see Ahab making one sacrifice unto God. He was not even a Jew by religion or a Hebrew by religion. He was an Amorite, basically, the way he worshipped. You know what I'm saying? But God's still showing him patience, and God want to do the same for each and every one of us. Simple as that. You can't outsing God's love, you know? But you can't convince God that you do not want his grace and mercy. It would be against God's law for Naboth to sell his inheritance to King Ahab. However, Jezebel, the queen, made it clear that she abides by her own rules. And because of this, a prophet came and prophesied Ahab's demise for the second time. And in the upcoming chapter, the prophecy against Ahab will be fulfilled. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by Ayana Robertson-Gay, as well as your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week.